Welcome to the Musar Torah podcast for Parshas Chukas-Balak. Join us as we explore the weekly parsha, uncovering valuable insights and striving to become the best versions of ourselves through Musar teachings. When we start Parshas Chukas, we encounter the famous mitzvah of the Parah Adumah, the Red Heifer. A completely red cow is slaughtered, its ashes are prepared, and those ashes are used to purify someone who has become impure, tameh, through contact with a human corpse. We have covered the famous paradox of this mitzvah in a previous episode, the way it purifies the tameh person while simultaneously making the kohen who performs it tameh themselves. Today, however, we want to look at the Parah Adumah through a different lens. Rav Shalom Rosner Shlita, in his Sefer Shalom Rav, cites three remarkable questions posed by Rav Soloveitchik Zecher Levracha. The first question: if we look at the end of last week's parsha Korach and then start Chukas, we notice something striking. There is a gap of 38 years between them. An entire generation lived, wandered, and died in the desert. The Torah is essentially silent about these 38 years, recording only the list of journeys in Parshas Maaseh. Why is that? What happened during those 38 years, and why does the Torah not speak of them? Question number 2. All of the other laws dealing with purity and impurity appear in Sefer Vayikra. Why is this commandment, the commandment of the Parah Adumah, placed here in Sefer Bamidbar, rather than with its natural companions? Question number 3. Why does the parsha open with the phrase Zos Chukas HaTorah? This is the chok, rather than the more expected, this is the law of the Parah Adumah. Why does the Torah frame this as the chok of the Torah as a whole, and not simply a law about a particular type of cow? Rav Soloveitchik's answer to the third question opens a window into the entire parsha. He explains that when the Torah says this is the chok of the Torah, it is not referring specifically to the Parah Adumah at all. The word chok, a divine decree that transcends human understanding, is pointing to something far larger. The chok being referenced, Rav Soloveitchik explains, is death itself. Death is the mind-defying mystery that purification process of the Parah Adumah seeks to address. Rav Rosner builds on this insight. Death is the ultimate chok. It is utterly beyond our control, beyond our comprehension, and yet it is woven into the very fabric of the human condition. Every one of us, no matter our wisdom, no matter our wealth or righteousness, marches helplessly in its direction. This idea that the chok here refers to death is in fact reflected in the pasuk itself. If you take a look in Bamidbar, Perek Yud Tes, pasuk Yudaled, the pasuk says, Zos haTorah Adam ki yamos ba'ohel kol haba el ha'ohel v'chol asher ba'ohel yitma shivas yamim. This is the Torah, the law. When a person dies in a tent, whoever enters the tent and whoever is in the tent shall be impure for 7 days. Zos haTorah, this is the Torah, says the pasuk about the case of human death, the Torah of death, the ultimate chok. To appreciate the full weight of this teaching, notice something that distinguishes tumas meis, the impurity of death, from all other forms of ritual impurity. Every other type of impurity can be resolved through immersion in a mikvah. Impurity from tameh meis cannot. The Parah Adumah ashes must be sprinkled on the person by a kohen. An outside intervention is required. The person cannot cleanse themselves on their own. This is not a coincidence. It is a statement. When we encounter death, we are encountering the one domain of human experience that places us entirely in Hashem's hands. All other impurities can be addressed through our own action. We go to the mikvah. We wait. We are purified. When death enters the picture, we need something else. We need someone else. We need the kohen to come to us. And the kohen is not acting on his own authority. He is the messenger of Hashem, the true purifier. The message is clear. We are in control up to a point. We have extraordinary latitude in managing our own lives, our actions, our character. Death, however, is the ultimate chok. That remains entirely beyond us. It is Hashem who is in charge. With this framework in place, we can now return to the first two questions. Why are the 38 silent years not discussed in the Torah? Because they were not a time of growth, teaching, or new divine communication. They were a time of dying. The entire generation of 600,000 men who had left Egypt was dying out in the desert as a punishment for the sin of the spies. Year after year, more deaths, more grieving families, more widows, more orphans, more mourners, more encounters with the ultimate chok. The Torah does not record the details of those years because there was nothing to record except death. What the Torah is doing in its silence is inviting us to feel the weight of that era, the relentless march of an entire generation into the ground, To simply list those years and move on would be to miss the point entirely. Let's go to the other question. Why is the Parah Adumah placed here in Bamidbar and not in Vayikra along with the other purity laws? Because the Parah Adumah is not just another purity law. It is the law of death. The generation that needed to receive it most, the generation living with death every single day of those 38 silent years, was the generation in the desert. The timing is not arbitrary. The placement is a message. Here is the deeper message for that generation and for us. How did Klal Yisrael survive those 38 years? How did a people facing such relentless loss hold itself together? How did they continue to function, to care for one another, to look toward the future? The answer is the Parah Adumah, not merely as a ritual, but as a theological anchor. The message of the mitzvah is this: Hashem is in charge. Even death, especially death, is within Hashem's plan. The Kohen who sprinkles the ashes is not a magic solution. He is a reminder, a physical reminder that there is a comforter, a purifier, a divine plan operating at every level of existence, including the level we cannot see or understand. The generation in the Bamidbar was not simply being asked to endure grief. They were being given a framework for understanding it. Every time someone died, every time a family became tameh through contact with the body of a loved one, every time a Kohen came to sprinkle those ashes, the message was renewed. This is not chaos. Hashem is here. There is a chok, and Hashem is the author of it. This week, let's identify one area of our lives where we feel a loss of control, something that is not going the way we hoped or expected, something that resists our best efforts. Rather than driving harder against it or retreating into despair, practice sitting with the possibility that this is our Parah Adumah moment. We are being invited to recognize the limits of what we can do on our own and to consciously turn toward the one who holds what we cannot. That is not passivity, that is emunah. It is one of the hardest and most important things we will ever do. The Parah Adumah is not just a mysterious law about a red cow. It is the Torah's response to the deepest and most universal human experience, the experience of death, of loss, of powerlessness before forces far beyond our control. Its placement in Chukas at precisely the moment when Klal Yisrael needed it most is itself a teaching about divine compassion. Hashem does not leave us alone with the chok. Hashem gives us a framework. Hashem gives us the Kohen. Hashem gives us each other. Hashem gives us the reminder encoded in a mitzvah that defies explanation, that we are never truly without a purifier. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Musar HaTorah podcast. Have a good Shabbos.